Welcome to Think Fast, where we took a week off last week. This week, actually, starting off on a slightly more somber note. We had uh, one of the more, I'd say, one of the nicest people in advertising, Siddharth Rao, just got the news that he passed away. So, slightly somber start to this episode. So, thought we'll start with that and just pay our respects for truly the nicest guy. I mean, Suchita, you interacted with him as well, right, in the past?
Yeah, man. I never met him, but he was
Hmm.
just one of those who, just reached out, was always a well wisher. I remember in our earlier years of LBB, he had, sent me an email saying, love what you're doing. And given that he's one of the advertising OGs, it just
Yeah.
meant so much coming from, someone who's been there, done that, and built things ground up. Just the nicest guy. And I'm on a couple of, founder groups where he was there as well,
Hmm.
and the outpouring of love,
Yeah.
what a legacy to leave behind.
Yeah, and thing is that you always have these things, right, in every industry where, like, people are competitors and it becomes like this whole thing. But he truly brought about one thing, and I remember this because Glitch and Web Chutney were through years considered like almost competitors. Is that he would always cheer on a good campaign or a win for us, and then we would reciprocate the same because he just felt
Yeah,
like he would create that environment where we're all doing this stuff together, and it's not like a competition, not like people say we're at war and all that, none of that stuff, right? And
yeah.
he brought a lot of that out, and I know for a fact a lot of people who ended up making startups, after leaving Web Chutney, he would be one of the first people to write them a check. So yeah, it's a bit of a sad thing to hear. But like you said, like, what a legacy to have.
Seriously, man. These things are always so tough to grapple with, especially when they come out of nowhere. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
like it's different if,
yeah.
if someone's had health issues for a while, and this is a consequence of one of those. I think this was
Hmm.
just
Out of the
came out
blue.
of absolutely
Yeah.
nowhere. But I don't know, man. We've spoken about this on the podcast before, but I lost a friend earlier this year, and
Hmm.
more than anything else, you can't change outcomes like this. Life is short and unpredictable, but what truly warms the soul and warms the heart is the way in which great people are remembered.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I hope everyone has an opportunity to build something over the course of their lifetimes the same way Sid Rao had, because
Yeah.
just the love is unbelievable. But with that,
With that, moving on to the fact that we took a week off last week. It was an unintentional week off.
yes.
Calendars did not align, timelines did not align, and such is
Mercury was
life.
in retrograde, guys. Mercury was in
Mercury was in
retrograde.
retrograde,
That's
so we
what
decided
happened.
to. Our episode went into retrograde. Jalasmi did try to make it happen, but somehow Mercury did not allow it to happen. But we're back. We're back this week, and you are happy as well. Your favorite show is back.
Oh my God, guys. Wow. Seema Taparia is back in business. And guess who wasted her life yesterday? Watching given that it is a long weekend and yesterday was a
Hmm.
holiday, watching Indian Matchmaking season 3. I am
I
so
saw
happy.
Ghosted yesterday. It's quite cheesy fun.
Dude,
Uh,
nothing comes close to Indian matchmaking. In between Love is Blind and Indian matchmaking, the number of brain cells I have lost is just
yeah.
incredible.
Speaking of brain cells that have been lost, people are losing their mind over the fact that all the legacy blue ticks have gone away across the board. People are really like having a bit of a fit. Although I think the most appropriate tweet was someone tweeted saying, the fact is people are just being disgruntled and being like whatever because they're losing their Twitter blue checks. Imagine what would happen if people on Instagram lost their blue checks,
Oh
and
man,
I think
the
that they would
world would
like that would
crumble.
the world would crumble in that sense. So um, I guess it's I don't know what to think about it. I feel that it's still not been done right. So like random, like you have public figures who suddenly lost blue ticks, which is the whole reason why verified exists, that you know
Yeah.
whose account this is. So any random person can suddenly have like a blue check next to Shah Rukh Khan's Twitter account. Then I don't know. What is your
Yeah,
thoughts
but
on this
I
blue
I
checkness?
think this is I think this is one of those things where, first off, Twitter, in the grander scheme of things, is such an inconsequential platform. It's not even funny. You know what I mean? Like, it's literally the smallest speck of dust. Sure, it is that, town square and that central place where anyone with any amount of power sort of congregates. But it is a speck in the ocean of and in the universe of, digital content consumption that exists. So, in the grander scheme of things, does it really matter? Probably not.
Hmm.
I do think Elon Musk is notorious for going back and forth and up and
Yeah, yeah,
down and round and round. So I will not
yeah.
be surprised if this gets reinstated in the next
So
like 2 weeks.
I did subscribe. I know I mentioned this in the last time I recorded as well. I did have Twitter Blue for a month.
Yeah,
Decided not to renew it because didn't see too much of a difference. So
value.
we decided
Yeah.
why spend that 800 rupees or 699 if you're doing it on the website, and we still haven't noticed any big difference. But I guess power users will see more
Yes.
value in this, I'm guessing. But what else has happened? What else has happened? Once powerful, Tupperware is warning of a collapse unless it finds funds. I mean, Tupperware was literally what it was like the OG, like everybody's,
D2C
yeah, like
consumer
eh,
brand.
also very aspirational. I remember Tupperware is very like aspirational. Oh, you have Tupperware
Yeah,
at home
yeah.
was a thing,
It's
and
not
they're
a tiffin, it's a
collapsing.
Tupperware.
Yeah, but why?
So God alone
What do they
knows
do?
what happened over here, but I'm assuming, dude, think about it, man. In the grander scheme of things, how many companies truly withstand the test of time,
That's
right?
true.
It's like those, those lists, Fortune 500 companies over the past 60 years, and you'll really see that out of the 500 companies, hardly 10 to 12 really stand the
Hmm.
test of time. So, हो गया होगा कुछ ना कुछ shit
So
happens.
basically, I'm just reading this BBC article which talks about this. The fact is that younger consumers don't buy Tupperware.
Hmm.
It was very 1950s, 1960s. Younger consumers want to buy different products, and they haven't been able to really move to digital. Haven't been they've started to sell in like Target stores in the US, etc. So yeah, just haven't they failed to change. It's one of those
Yeah.
stories where you're still stuck in the way things always worked and didn't adapt to the times and. No more Tupperware parties, which was a thing I have come to know that there was a time people would have Tupperware parties. Where you get your
Oh
Tupperware
God.
to my house, and we were all a
Varun,
kitty
this
party or was
this
called.
sounds like something you would do.
I would do a
Hi
Tupperware
guys,
party.
come
Hi,
over for
guys.
a Tupperware party.
Yes.
Hi guys.
You want some milk and cookies?
Oh yes, that is exactly the English accent. That is exactly what it sounds
Yes.
like. But
Yes.
in other news, a parent company, BuzzFeed, is laying off 15% of staff and will focus its news efforts on HuffPost. This is with context to the fact that BuzzFeed has shuttered its news
Yeah.
division. What
Yeah.
do you make of this, man? Actually, let me ask you: should they have even gotten into news in the first place?
I don't think they should have. I felt like this was one of those things that BuzzFeed at its prime did really well. I mean, it was very focused on a few categories.
Yeah,
Food, pop culture. Um, I feel it was a BuzzFeed getting into news was a lot more driven by what Vice was doing. It has been my belief for the longest time. It kind of happened at the same time,
yeah,
and they thought they kind of take into that, dig into that market. But news in general has not done well. Right? I mean, apart from business news, I don't see news as it's a bit of a sad thing that you haven't seen news media really do well in the digital space compared to how it does in traditional. This is one of the signs of that. But also, BuzzFeed has not had a good run in recent years, right? I mean, way
yeah.
past its prime if you think about it.
Yeah, and I'm sure, and I hope we get around to talking about this in one of the next couple of episodes. But if you just do a quick dipstick of media companies, whether it's in the US or even in India, folks who haven't gotten out of advertising revenue as a monetization stream have
Mm,
genuinely really 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 struggled. In
yeah.
fact, the most successful ones are ones who've pivoted, pivot is the wrong word, but basically added some form of B2B research or some form of events agency-esque type businesses,
Mm,
and then obviously some that have transformed into commerce businesses or subscription businesses. But BuzzFeed, I think, is one of those that, similar to Tupperware, just was not able to transform outside of
yeah.
its OG sort of association with all
Yeah.
things clickbait on the internet.
I think also that if you read into it, they also had they went through their IPO through a SPAC.
Yeah.
And that SPAC deal was very bad for them. So it's one of those cases where it's not just how the business was doing, it's about how they went to their IPO, how they took that call,
Hmm.
and also the tech recession hasn't helped, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is something to digital media that I feel needs to be rethought, because you are seeing more and more. Like, you haven't seen too many success stories in the last few years. There's this period of time in every digital media company, both India and globally, right? But in recent times, you've not seen any good stories. You always hear a story of someone fading, someone not doing well. But um, I should ask you this: what do you think is going wrong with digital media?
So many things. I think one is everyone is pandering to this entertainment news
Mm,
subsection.
yeah,
And I think the problem with that is these are very, very easy to disrupt and own, niches of the internet.
yeah,
Like, I'll give you an example, right? Discord, in my opinion, is a media company.
yeah,
One can surely argue that, though it's tech first, it's, peer to peer connects, blah, blah, bullshit, bullshit. But at the heart of it, that's what it is. And I think if you look at any company that's truly succeeded or broken out, or just survived, right? It's usually folks who pick up niches of the internet and go all in, versus folks who take these large, daily active user type swaths of problem statements, which is entertainment and news, and build for those. In fact, in the Indian
mm,
context, I think maybe one company that sort of kind of stood the test of time despite being focused in news, the two actually, one is Daily Hunt and the second one is In Shorts. Now,
mm.
I don't know what their most latest numbers are, if they've scaled, not scaled, or where they're at, but it's just very, very, very tough to pander to the lowest common denominator and build it into a business.
Yeah. And if you look at the examples of some of the ones who've done well, right? Look globally, look at like a Goop, look at a Houdinki, very clear niche, work within that, go deep and figure ways to monetize beyond advertising, like you said, right? Houdinki has their store, has insurance for watches.
Yeah.
Goop obviously has gone into his own wide range of things.
There's
You
lots
have
too.
to
There's
go
another
beyond.
really interesting one called Food 52, which has gone into
Hmm.
recipes.
Yeah.
They're also selling like products and things like that.
Yeah,
There's another one.
they were featured in Fast Company recently, and how they went from. I feel the interesting part about them was the fact that they took the anti-chef approach. Like most
Yeah.
food publications have a very chef at the center of it. Here, was like normal people trying stuff out.
Yeah.
There's a YouTuber called Babish, who has a channel
Yeah.
called
Yeah.
Binging with
He's a
Babish,
gangster.
and now he's made a multi show piece. He has like kitchen utensils, etc., as products. So much to
Yeah.
learn from a niche focus rather than going like mass.
And it is possible to become huge, just
Mm,
going back to that Discord example, or even Twitch for that matter.
yeah,
But then everything from the tools that you make to, the technology that you have, your product lens,
yeah,
even how you think about content, right? I think
yeah,
I think another mistake, and we can move on to the next story right after this, but I think another mistake is a lot of these companies try getting into user generated content,
mm,
vehicles, which end up actually screwing up the quality of content on these
100%.
platforms. So the ones who've scaled have stayed true to mostly editorial led content, had a very, very, very strong point of view, and just gone all in on that point of view and done multiple different cuts. We've spoken about this before. Revenue models in the future are going to be sum of parts, because
Yeah,
scaling on the back of just one is going to be impossible to do given the number of behemoths that exist.
yeah. But moving on to the next story, Instagram is rolling out a new feature, very like surprise announcement. Adam Mosseri, everybody's
Your
favorite,
bestie.
my
Not
bestie, who
everyone's favorite, bro. Just your favorite.
I
One to
just
the
think is
number of
I just think he's a cool guy.
statements he makes. Of course,
Yeah.
he's a cool guy. It's like
Yeah.
every time he goes live on Instagram, he comes up with new random things, which then 1 year later he backtracks on. It's
Hmm.
amazing. What a great
But this
guy.
is an interesting feature. They've launched Instagram always famously would never have a clickable website link in their comments. So you had to do in my link in bio, link in bio.
Hmm.
And there are multiple companies that have raised millions of dollars to create link in bio driven platforms. Now Instagram lets you put up to 5 links in your bio. Uh,
Hmm.
but I think they've, I was just reading a couple of news stories on this, is that A lot of the companies like Linktree, etc., have responded saying that, while they might have added more links here, what they provide to creators is that, you get deeper analytics, you get an understanding of what time, what kinds of audiences are clicking at which point of time. So they're at least saying they don't see this as a big threat, but it is, right? Because if I can't put 5 links there, why do I need a link tree? Could be the use case for most, I would say, general consumers.
Yes, I haven't been tracking this space too much, but one quick thing: this LinkedIn bio wala business.
Mm,
We've discussed this in a past story, but I think they have northward of like 2 million subscribers, if I'm not mistaken. And the thing that I've
mm,
seen with these tools is, sure, Instagram can pull out a fast one and diversify the number of links that one can have, but monetization of this is not easy. And I
yeah,
think the ones who've been able to, get to those
yeah,
significantly decent subscription cohorts have
yeah,
first and foremost been at it for a while.
yeah,
Kind of like MailChimp, you know what I mean? Like, I remember when MailChimp blew up, so many other emailer type platforms started. Shopify also, went out on a limb and said, we will do ABC XYZ integration. But
yeah,
it goes back to semi related to the BuzzFeed conversation that we were having, where finding a way of customer acquisition and then building a subset of features around that is
mm,
not, it's not easy to disrupt. So the
yes.
ones who are doing well, I think will continue to do well, man.
I also realized we've made our introduction very long. We're not even halfway through our introduction pieces,
Better
but
move fast.
we shall
Better
move
move
faster,
fast.
think faster. Foreign trip booking is going to become has one interesting addition now. Is all credit card users might mostly have to pay 20% TCS on forex transactions. This is in line with what was announced in the budget. Yeah, I'm not saying anything, but okay, not happy about this as a consumer.
आपकी
I don't
फॉरेन
know.
ट्रिप्स आप तो कंगाल होके आओगे नाउ.
मैं तो कुछ और करना पड़ेगा लाइफ में, कुछ और।
Yes.
इंडिया में
No
घूमो,
more.
सब
No more
सब इंडिया में
Maldives.
घूमो, सब
No more
इंडिया में घूमो।
Maldives.
Then Netflix has slashed subscription rates in 116 countries following their successful business model in India. I mean, this model has actually done really well for them, right? If you look at it, breaking it down, getting this whole like mobile first model out there, could actually be one of the things that really helps Netflix in the long run.
Yeah, but one can argue, India may have been like a trigger, but this is also a consequence of the amount of competition that they're seeing across the
That
board.
is true.
And even with their business model, it's undergoing a transformation, right? It's undergoing just being
Yeah.
a jack of one trade, which is subscription, to now that competition's heating
Basically,
up.
we're
How
back to
do we?
television. I want to say this: all OTT, we live in a
You've
basically
said
at
this
one point
before
we go to
also on
one.
the show.
वही हो रहा है फिर
Varun,
से now
bhulo
वही
mat.
हो रहा है वो
By the way,
उम्र
when's
हो
your
गया, उम्र हो
birthday?
गया।
Sorry, I'm getting distracted. But when's
14th
your?
of
Isn't it
August is my
coming up?
birthday.
Acha, it's not
14th of
coming up
August.
anytime soon. Okay.
My
And
wedding
how
anniversary
old
is
you
coming
turn
up.
this year? How old you turn
I'm
this
going to
year?
turn
41.
41 this year. 41.
Whoa,
Yes.
Varun, Buddhe
But
Shuddhe.
my
Okay.
wedding anniversary is coming up,
Acha.
and for that I've called Backstreet Boys to India, and they're performing on my wedding
Of
anniversary.
course. How sweet.
मैंने बोला सबको।
What a gesture of love.
निक
I
बेटा
want it
आजा,
that way.
निक निक आजा।
Not being suggestive at all. Okay. In any case, before we get into Vishnu Suhagrat, let's go into our next story, which is Tiger Global.
um,
What has Tiger Global done?
Tiger Global, at one point in time, the VC that was super aggressive, in backing Indian startups has exited multiple portfolio companies. But Tiger's been doing this now for a while. Like, Tiger's been this slow process of really like getting out of most of their investments in India, if not all. Very few left.
I feel like Tiger Global is like that Katy Perry song, Hot and Cold. You know what I mean? Like in that 6 month psychotic, did you almost spit your drink out?
I almost spat my drink out. Yeah.
No, but I swear, dude, like in those 6 months of like psychocism that was happening in 2021, the last 6 months of 2021 where people were pouring money onto everything.
Yeah.
Tiger Global was back in business. They were back in action. They were like chapoing notes and payloading it on everyone. But I just think they're the pinnacle of why we are in hype cycles.
Yeah.
Because they pile onto hype cycles, they pile out of hype cycles when things cool down. So I wouldn't take this with as much seriousness as I would
Mm.
just global market schooling, and hence a Tiger looking to create, you know what I mean, like closure
Yeah.
stories out of their past investments.
But what you have to take seriously is what Reliance and what's happening with Reliance, Viacom, and that entire bunch is Reliance's OTT arm, which is Geo Cinema, is has announced this huge slate of original titles. Obviously, a lot of movies which they produce, which they've always had, and they're adding more. But
Hmm.
huge slate of like original series, movies, etc. So it seems to be like this. Okay, IPL is in its like in its hype point. Let's announce all of these titles coming up so people stick on. And I don't know if I know that you don't watch cricket, but one of the things that actually has happened, and I didn't realize it, is that while you were watching it for free, at some
Hmm.
point the buffering was getting problematic unless you entered your phone number. Once you enter your phone number and log in, you suddenly it streamed much better. So they're also
Mm.
aggregating all the numbers,
Database.
all database ban raha hai. And in the
Data is the
between
new
they're also doing
oil.
this. And on the other side, Viacom's also received like 5,000 crores of investment from Bodhi Tree. This is the James Murdoch Uday Shankar Fund, and Uday Shankar obviously has been behind the scenes working with Reliance and Viacom in their entire sports endeavor. So yes, some interesting moves, big moves happening in this space. While I don't know what Disney and Hotstar are doing, but I'm sure they have some plans as well.
I am sure they do. But moving on, Walmart Inc. has agreed to sell its Bonobos menswear line to WHP Global and Express Inc.
Hmm.
for $35 million, which is 235 million less than what the retail giant first paid for the business in 2017.
More like Bono
What do you make of
Boohoo.
this?
More like Bono Boohoo.
Ha 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 ha. I will let you laugh at your own joke.
Yes,
Or
yes.
Haslo. I'll give you one more
Ah.
minute. What do you make of this bonobos? I won't even say fall from grace. I think it's the same thing that we discussed, in the beginning of the show, right?
Yeah,
Shit
brands
happens.
stay, brands. Yeah, and not all brands can sustain and stay for long enough. And you said this
Yeah.
earlier in the episode, and that's going to be the case again and again. Very few stick on, and if they don't evolve enough, I mean, they obviously will be the Levi's of the world who really figure this out
Hmm.
and constantly evolve. But Bono was one time like obviously a very aspirational, very like fun brand,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
hasn't
OG
hasn't been able to stick
D2C.
around. Hasn't been able to stick around. What else? What else? What else?
Guess
First
who is
cry
sticking
plans.
around?
First
First
cry.
cry.
They're not crying.
Okay. Cool, cool, cool. What have
First
they
cry
done?
plans. First cry plans secondary offer to sovereign funds at $3 billion valuation. But actually, you got to give First Cry credit that they've really been able to really hold on to this one market. I mean, they're still one of the go-tos for most parents to go shop for
Correcto.
stuff, and actually have the best inventory for this category. You will oftentimes
Hmm.
not find this stuff on Amazon, etc., but you will end up finding the products on First Cry, which has been as from like a very like consumer who has been on all these platforms looking for stuff perspective. I've oftentimes found stuff on First Cry which Amazon somehow always keeps going out of stock.
Guess what I hope I never have to use? First cry.
Diapers.
There you go. There you go.
It's called old age. You
But
will wear diapers at some point. It's called adult diapers.
yes, and for that, I'm sure there's some, isn't it this like senior citizen platform where
Yeah.
all these senior citizen goods can be bought, including adult diapers?
Yeah, there's that. It's called Friend diaper, if I remember
Abey,
right.
no, yaar. It starts with an S. But in any case, while we think of this, we're 24 minutes in, so let's just quickly run through the balance
Yes.
stories. H&M Beauty opens a flagship store in Oslo. The new store will have a wide variety of H&M branded beauty products along with more than 80 other brands.
Dear
It
H&M, I
just,
buy makeup products. I'm just like letting you know that you
yes,
can please
please
contact
sponsor
now.
Varun's face
Details
and
भेजना
his
details. With my glowing
facelift
complexion, मेरे खूबसूरती का राज
is what?
is makeup.
Actually, what is your let's ignore khoobsurat as a word. What is your raz to not looking like you're 41?
It's called a hair transplant, which I got. I openly talk about it. I got it 2 years
You do,
ago.
which I really appreciate. I really like that you're
Yeah.
like upfront
I'm
about
like
these
modern
things.
science allowed me to do it, so I went ahead and did it. And it's
Yeah,
it's not like I got somebody else's hair. It's my own hair. They just take it out from the back
yeah,
of your head and put it on top of your head.
yeah.
But I mean, I've always been that person who has products and stuff. So I look for the right kind
Takes
of,
care.
cleanser, and I look for the moisturizer that works for my skin, because I have a slightly I need to find a match moisturizer for my face, because I can get really
Look at you
glossy.
dropping them words.
All these terms I know. But yeah, it's just basic stuff. And also, like, drink lots of water.
Lovely. And now that that's done, buy now, pay later, fintech Simple is now among the several startups that has conducted significant layoffs. They've cut about 150 employees. BNPL seems to be in choppy waters, as we have seen happen with the, what was it
But
called?
again, isn't it like almost like I mean, I know we feel like one broken record, but it's because of the market, because of the space it is. Once it comes back up, all of this will come back.
No, bro, but I don't think BNPL is making a comeback in India. I think that's like one territory which, should not have raised as much money as it did to begin with.
Hmm.
I'm sure other sectors will bounce back. No, not so bullish on BNPL being one of them. Last quick update, at least from me, and then you can add the balance to stories. Trell, which was last valued at close to about 100 million in Jan 2022, apparently and obviously gotten to choppy waters because of an irregularity that was found in their financial systems and processes. There's a massive story that came out because I think ENY or one of these consultancies found some amount of I want to say like fraudulenty activities happening within the company. Regardless, Sequoia Capital has apparently sold its stake of about 6% for less than $100 to existing
What?
investor Ma Theta Trust, says
Wow.
sources. I don't know what these
Jam.
sources are and if they should be believed, but yeah, this was
That's crazy. That's
cray.
crazy.
The
hundred
cray.
dollars.
The source of this, by the way, is the Arc, which is this new newsletter that the ex cap table folks have now launched.
Okay. Hmm.
Or kuch?
Fall from Trell. That didn't sound right, but anyway.
It
Um,
didn't. One more
so
time,
uh,
encore. Yeah.
I think that's enough for the introduction. We've done many things for introduction this week. So, but what we are going to talk about this week is the entire craze. Mr. Tim Cook has come and cooked up a storm across everywhere, from vada paos to cricket matches to random. I have to talk this one image in the cricket match. It's just going to stay in my head, embedded forever, and many other things. But and what else are we talking about? We're talking about how short form creators really are struggling with this no funds, no ads reality in present day market. And we had and our my favorite animals dead, or rather our unicorns dead, is going to
Yeah.
be one upon to discuss all of this and a few more things. But before we leave, have you seen this new song by Yo-Yo Honey Singh and Salman Khan, where they sing every single nursery rhyme in a song and dance to it? If you want
What?
an earworm that will stay with you and make you want to make your ears bleed, that is the song. I'm going to send it to you so that you listen to it and watch it. It will change
Can't
your life.
wait. Thank you for
But
adding value to
before
my life.
so while I make you listen to it, we shall take a break. Be right back with Think Fast.
Hello, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus welcomes Seema Taparia, popular marriage consultant and TV personality. They spoke about her career and her claim to fame project Indian Matchmaking on the OTT giant Netflix. On the Habit Coach podcast, Ashton talks to Kristen Butler, CEO of Power of Positivity. They talk about what made her embrace positivity in her life and how it became her mission to spread the same. And on page 10, Abbas, that's me, Jalasmi and Karan discuss Atiq Ahmed's assassination caught live on camera in Prayagraj, former Governor Satyapal Malik's explosive revelations, and more. Catch all the episodes on the All About Now feed and YouTube channel. And once again, don't forget to visit our merch store on ivmpodcasts.com. We have some really great stuff for you over there. Follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you like our shows, spread the word, tell your friends, and don't forget to rate and review them wherever you're listening to them. You'll also find our shows on YouTube at youtube.com/IVM Podcasts. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week, Cash-Free Payments and HDFC Mutual Fund. Thank you for making this possible.
Welcome back to Think Fast, where if you have still not heard that song from Kisi Ka Bhai, Kisi Ki Jaan, where Salman and Honey Singh are singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and Jack and
Oh
Jill,
my
and Mary Had
God.
Little Lamb, and dancing to it with lungis,
Oh my
dhotis. It
God.
is going to like, I think it is the song that was played. My big worry is that's the song that everyone's going to play in every single school day
Wedding.
for kids.
Oh, school day.
Oh, yes, that is what's happening. But
Oh
anyway,
man.
getting back to different, it is an interesting couple of days of Mr. Tim Cook taking over everything in the news. Have you been following the entire Apple
Of
Store has
course I
come to
have.
India madness? What
All
is your take?
over. I have
What is
no
your take?
take because, as you know, I was using a OnePlus 5S up until it stopped working 3 months ago. And then I was forced into buying an iPhone by my
What is your
husband.
take on
But
you like using an iPhone?
yeah, I don't care. For me, phones are very like functional things. I just use them to answer emails and check Instagram. So I am the worst contributor to the story. But you, Mr. Tim Cook, an Apple fan, give us what
Hmm.
does this mean to the Indian customer, and is this really the precipice of something interesting with Apple in India?
So, there's been discussions of an Apple store coming to India for a while now. It's been 20 years since the first Apple store opened up in Asia. So it's not like, we've gotten a little late in the day. And in every country you go, every space you go, the Apple store always is like this one, like, people just go in like they're like, it's like a tourist moment, right? Go into an Apple store,
It's
come out.
like
I've done that.
Disneyland.
Yeah, I've gone into Apple stores in any part of the world I've ever traveled to just for fun. Just walk in, come out.
Hmm.
You see the same stuff. It's not like you're seeing anything different.
Yeah.
But what they also did over the years is make them into almost experience spaces where you can go in, you can learn how to use specific apps to do everything from art to create music to everything else.
Hmm.
And that's the difference between any store that sells Apple products to the Apple store, is that there are more things to experience there, including the Genius Bar where you can learn how to use the products better. And they've brought that here. But what's I feel interesting is just the way they did it. They obviously have two stores, one in Bombay's Geo World Mall, one coming up in Select City Walk. Is that where it's coming up
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
Delhi?
That's why not coming up, come up.
It's come up, and there's been like the hype cycle was pretty hardcore. I mean, people were like, there were queues. People are trying to going there, gets their influencer photos.
Yeah.
And Mr. Tim Cook has been everywhere, from making macaroons with Pooja Dingra to like eating vada pav with Madhuri Dixit to weirdly watching a Delhi Capitals match with Sonam Kapoor and Anand Ahuja, which I didn't get.
Yeah,
That was the
neither
only
did
one who
I.
was like, yeah, and also Sonam Kapoor was not dressed for a cricket match. She was dressed for like a fashion
Like a
event.
Khan's. Oh, really? But that's unsurprising. I mean, that's like on brand
So
as
this is
far as
really
Sonam's
funny
concerned.
photograph that came up in the paper of Sonam Kapoor and Tim Cook talking to each other. Tim Cook is in the stadium in this heat, so his face is all pink, and she's wearing this very like flowy dress. And
Oh
there are
my God, she
two,
was wearing this in Delhi. I am like on
yes,
her Instagram right now.
yes, and there were two uncles wearing Delhi Capital dresses. I don't know if they're uncles or the part of management who were staring at them like, who are these people? So this is like beautiful image that came in newspaper, and I was like, yes, this is the true. Like, why would anyway? It's one of those things. This is like one of the most random images ever, but you got to give Tim Cook credit. He's been around. He's
One with the
gone to people
people.
who are using products across the board. It's a good high point for Apple, because they have been doing well in India. He obviously met
Yeah.
the Prime Minister. They are manufacturing a lot more in India. So Apple seems to be seriously focusing on India, not just for retail and manufacturing, but in general, as like, okay, it's where they might end up focusing a lot more as the entire China piece becomes more of an issue.
Yeah, one is that. Second, for what it's worth, I think the whole PR exercise was done fairly well. We guys were chatting about how, remember when like Amazon had launched in India and then Jeff
Yeah.
Bezos was on some like hathi and wearing a sherwani, and it was all very like tacky and weird. And he had this like crazy GQ cover shot in some ostentatious looking farmhouse,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, the point that I'm getting to is there have been a lot of like shitty PR tours done by white people in India. I think this was
Hmm.
probably one of the better, more
Yeah.
thoughtful ones where
Yeah.
it's he checked all the right boxes. Entrepreneurs, business people, Bollywood and starlets.
Even
Some of the
he's done even
choices.
Rangoli also.
Yeah, Dana Rango. Yeah, very like Peripona,
Hmm.
Vada Pav, Madhuri Dixit, Indian things to do. But it's delivered, dude. Whatever he
Yeah.
had to do to rile up the Indian customer base, he has
Hmm.
totally done because the lines in Select City Walk were out of whack. That
Even
whole
in BKC,
mall
it's been
was a
crazy. It's
line.
become, he's basically brought about that one thing which globally defines the Apple Store. Like we said, is that you want to go visit it just because it's there,
Yeah,
and you don't say that about too many other stores in the world. And
yeah.
he's brought that hype in, and also very smart choice of locations.
Hmm.
Because there were initial talks of, okay, will the Apple Store be in one of those heritage spots in South Bombay? But Geo World Mall has become one of those like spots that everybody's gravitating towards because it's obviously been pushed out, and it's a really like well put together space.
Very well
Um,
designed.
Plus, some of the interesting things they did, right? 22 brands can advertise in its vicinity as part of the lease agreement.
Hmm.
The mall actually gets 2% revenue of the transactions in the Bombay one, which I thought was someone tweeted saying this is going to take care of some petrol bills for the Ambanis. Is what someone tweeted, and I was like, that's interesting. But yeah, all in all, well done, Apple. You kind of come in and taken over the buzz on
Yeah.
all ends.
I think one
But
small piece which I
hmm,
had caught, I think Rajiv Masand or someone had, sort of covered. He's a tech journal, right? Have I screwed up a
no,
name?
Rajiv Masan is a film journal, but yes, go on.
No, what
Rajiv
is the
Makhni,
other Raji?
Makhni,
Yeah,
Makhni.
Makhni, yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
so he had done this, sort of like tour of the Bombay store. And I think what he'd called out too, which I really like a lot of international brands for doing, I think even Starbucks did a very good job of this, is the homage that they give to local materials. I think a lot of the stone was sourced locally, a lot of the woodwork was done by local artisans.
Yeah.
The
It's the most
material.
sustainable Apple store, one of the most sustainable Apple stores in the world because entire solar panels on top, generating
Yeah,
most of the
yeah.
power it uses.
Yeah, but the thing that I like about, what Starbucks has done, what Apple's done is really give back to more local sources of, materials that have been used to build these stores up. And that also becomes an important part of their storytelling, out to consumers. It's these small things that make a big difference. So that was the one tippany that I caught on the internet from Mr. Rajiv Makhni's Instagram post.
Yes. On to other news. This is short form video has become the go-to video creation. Right? It's led to the entire creator boom. It's led to that because you had many long form creators
Hmm.
across YouTube, podcasts, etc. But it obviously took a lot more effort. Still takes a lot more effort to make long form.
Hmm.
But short form became this easy access way, and it led to, especially in like mass creators, became this gateway for them to kind of come in, right?
Hmm.
TikTok obviously revolutionized that. And after TikTok left India, Moj, Takatak, etc., all kind of took on that pieces. But right now, short form, especially in India, is in this bit of a new reality where there's like, funds are lower, not enough ads happening. A lot of these
Yeah.
platforms, the homegrown ones, not doing well. And so a lot of the smaller town creators are literally saying that the amount of money they're making has gone below half of what they were making before. So
Hmm.
thought that'd be an interesting story to discuss. Have you seen, do you feel this is more because the short form platforms are not doing well, or is it more just also the general reality really hitting?
A bunch of things, and we've discussed this story in the past, but
Hmm.
never really bought into this short form hype cycle for multiple different reasons. One, uh, generally scaling UGC in India is a pain in the ass. And the
Hmm.
only, not the only, that's a wrong way to sort of, say it. But if you look at platforms like TikTok or, even Instagram and YouTube for that matter, what makes them ARPU generators is
Hmm.
they all go global at some point. Sorry, they're all global, not go global. They're
Hmm.
all global, and they obviously adapt parts of their universe to the Indian context. The point that I'm getting to over here is in India, where in any case, Dow to Mao as a North Star metric hasn't proven success to a single company. I think the only, I won't even call them an exception because jury's still out on where they land, but Daily Hunt is possibly the closest one has gotten to Dow to Mao as a North Star metric with
Mm.
some amount of success, right? Or at least some amount of revenue success. It just hasn't worked for anyone else.
Yeah.
And I think why YouTube, Instagram, and even TikTok for that matter were able to scale and have been able to scale at the pace that they have been in the Indian context is because they have global content. Their
Mm.
content, the source of content isn't just, an Indian customer or an Indian creator. And unfortunately, none of these guys with their initiatives or efforts have come anywhere close to breaking out of that, tier 2, tier 3 plus kind of content creator and consumer. And whether we like it or not, the guys who actually have crazy amounts of ad dollars to spend will want to spend their ad dollars on more premium destinations and premium platforms, because that's just the way that's just the nature of advertising in India. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have a lot to say about this story, but I think the first thing that I'll kick off with is I haven't seen the reverse happen. I haven't seen Indian content companies scale to international global audiences and pull
Mm.
global content back to the Indian market for that
Yeah.
ARPU to make sense. And Dow to Mao is just not a worthy North Star in our country.
Mm. Explanation: people who don't understand these terms. ARPU is average revenue per user.
And Dow to Mao,
DAO is daily active user,
yes.
and Mao is monthly active user. I'm
Yeah,
just
and basically
explaining.
a lot of social media platforms, their North Star metric is what percentage of their monthly active users use the platform every single day, and hence
Mm.
that Dow to Mao thing. Thanks for the explainer, Varun.
Yes,
Thanks for the
explaining.
explainer.
Yes, but one of the things in this story is, which also we need to talk about, is that a lot of these platforms started to pay. They have contracts with a lot of these creators to be on the platform, to make them all move from, let's say, Instagram, etc., to come there. But
Hmm.
they've now cancelled thousands of such contracts. And so the money they were making from the platform actually paying them, saying, "Boss, come on my platform, make your content here." That's gone away. Well, I think there was the spokesperson for Mod just denied that there's a drop in creators' income, but there is definitely a huge cancellation. So instead of even ad money, this was platform
Hmm.
saying, "Come on a platform, I'm paying this much money to make content on my platform." And now, as the downturn happens and as the growth hasn't happened, they're just canceling those, and suddenly that money has kind of gone away.
Yeah, but also if you look at the amount of money that is being earned, right? So,
Mm.
and just reading it out from this article, and let's hope this particular article of Ken has its sources covered.
Mm.
But only 150,000 of the 80 million content creators in India earn a living through the profession,
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
majority earning anywhere in between 16,000 to about 2 lakhs a month,
Mm.
according to a report by venture capital firm Kalari Capital. So,
Yeah.
point being, in any case, Pareto is so hyper extreme in the creator
Mm.
ecosystem,
Yeah.
and the channels on which creators earn the most amount of money, whether we like it or not, is Instagram and YouTube. It's not some,
Yeah.
Thailu number 10 on the App Store social
Yeah.
media platform.
Yeah. And also shows that you can't have, short form is now a feature. It's no longer just the platform, right? You look at even like what
Exactly.
Instagram is backtracked towards. You look at how, if you go on YouTube now, interestingly, you can actually make podcasts on YouTube, by putting all the episodes which are a podcast on a
Hmm.
playlist, and in YouTube Studio tagging it as a podcast. Now go to anyone's channel who has a podcast, it shows up as separate tabs. There's videos, there is shorts, and there's
Yeah.
podcasts,
Yeah.
and there's live. So they very clearly articulated these are the categories of content, these are the types of content. They're not necessarily the same. I feel YouTube's got that right, the categorization, the way to kind of show it. But what's also happening because of that, a bit of a segue from this one, is that subscriptions are slowly becoming, do you really need subscriptions? Because if the
Hmm.
algo is constantly feeding you content, the number of followers, number of subscribers don't actually hold as much weight as engagement and reach does. And
Correcto.
how many views you're getting, how much engagement you're getting. So and if you look at that metric, also shows why these homegrown ones haven't done well. Is because you have to be able to show that kind of reach and engagement for it to make sense for you to grow. And for, let's say, global creators, etc., come on, if you can't show that, you can only pay people for so long till your funds dry.
Yeah, and not to sound like a Debbie Downer over here, but I think Indian founders are great at a lot of things. B2B we're excellent at, even service oriented, categories like e-com. I think we guys are great at. Indian
Consumer
customers are
products.
the consumer products. There's a lot that we have been able to crack. I think we've just generally been shite at the overall space of social media. We just
Consumer
have
tech
not.
in general, I feel, has a lot left lacking in that sense.
I mean, consumer tech is a broad swath. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like all of these, apps, fintech, etc. All of them technically fall under the
Fair,
larger
fair.
umbrella of consumer tech. But social media in general, we've generally been shite at.
Mm. I also feel the time of social media is kind of slowly moving away from that globally as well. So maybe not the best time to build a social media platform. Great time to build community platforms though. But that's a whole different discussion. We should have a discussion on community platforms because there's a lot
But
happening in
even
that space.
community, dude, like I think eh, I'll go out on a limb and say we'll even suck at community platform building, sort of companies.
Mm,
And the reason why I'm saying that is very simple. There has to be, if you look at the success of B2B in India, it's at the back of Indian founders learning how to sell in Western markets, because that's where the cash money within B2B is at, right? If you look at the success of e-com platforms in India, it's at the back of Indian founders learning the ropes on operations, and also obviously labor not being as stupendously expensive as it is in Western markets.
mm,
I think with community platforms, social media platforms, whatever we want to largely sort of bucket them into,
mm.
you have to have global audiences.
Yeah,
And one thing that we haven't been able to do is build consumer tech that scales and blends very well globally. And it's happened across the
yeah,
board. Like, it's not like Ola, Urban Company, or any of these guys who've tried and tested out international markets have crushed it over there.
yeah.
So larger conversation for another day. But
Yes,
if
yes.
you're building in
Shall
social
park
media,
this
you
for another
can't.
episode.
Yes, and I will keep my spiel for then.
I like unicorns. They're so nice and cute and fluffy and have like multicolored horns. And do
Okay,
you know that
first off,
a unicorn's horn can actually spray out rainbow dust as a like
yes,
and really like fights other animals? But
congratulations on having your mythology about unicorns down to the T, Varun, down to the T.
father of a 6-year-old girl.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a
Yes.
lot of sense. But
Yes.
does it make you feel bad? Does it, like, take away your excitement around the startup tech universe, so to
Yeah, I'm
speak?
like, don't like screw with this lovely like mythical animal which I really like. Why are you calling yourself a unicorn? Call yourself like whatever, big business. Maybe it doesn't sound that nice.
Yes,
Fair,
it does not sound
fair,
that nice.
fair. What
Uh,
is this story? Why are unicorns dying?
So basically, if you, which I'm sure our listeners also remember, those 6 months of 2021 from July to about December, where literally every second company was being,
कौन बनेगा
uh,
यूनिकॉर्न?
exactly, that's what was
Yeah.
happening. But sab ban rahe the unicorn, bro. It wasn't
Mm.
even a corn banega. It's like aap
Yeah.
paida ho gaye and you're a unicorn today. I think that there was that crazy hype cycle that happened there, and obviously now we guys are down to there being no unicorn announcement for
Mm.
I don't even know how long. When was the last time a company came out through the doors as a unicorn? I can't remember the last time there was
Mm.
this like unicorn announcement.
Mm.
Stop being distracted, Varun. Focus.
I'm just thinking that I don't remember the last unicorn.
Yeah, same. And obviously, it's got a lot of founders and investors in a bit of a tizzy, because you really need your valuations to keep bubbling up and growing up. But
Mm.
we're chatting about
Decacon भी
how.
नहीं हुआ पहले तो unicorn छोड़ो
Oh yeah.
they were decacons also happening decacons
Yes, and now not only are there no unicorns, valuations are coming crashing down to the T. Um,
crashacons.
oh God. Okay, what is your, like, what do you think is going to be like a net positive outcome of this cold wave?
So if you look at the overall thing, there was obviously a lot of when the hype cycle is going on, bloated valuations happen.
Hmm.
Growth projections are in a certain way. All of that stuff kind of happens. whenever this happens, I mean, it's almost like I'm going to use that word broken record again, which we've said for a long time. You go back to saying, okay, how do you make these legit businesses in the midst of a downturn?
Hmm.
And that will hopefully prove to give a little bit more intelligence, or a little bit more insight, rather more than intelligence, when the upturn happens again, because we all market is always going to go in cycles,
Yeah.
and when the cycle goes back up, you don't repeat some of the same mistakes. You build more stable businesses, you build businesses which are actually focused on generating not just like top line, but like bottom line actual returns for shareholders, for and also like creating products that consumers actually want, not just
Hmm.
like, oh, everybody's talking about AI, let's make an AI company, or everyone's talking about metaverse, let's make a metaverse company. But is this something consumers actually want and will continue to want for years ahead? Is the hope. But it's a cycle. You will go back to having all of this happen. We will go back to weekly, monthly unicorn farm announcements, as soon as the market comes back up again. But hopefully little bit more sense shall prevail.
Yeah, so I'm going to read one thing out. There's a gentleman called Matthew Ball. He's this metaverse guy.
Mm.
But in any case, he posted a tweet saying, "What are the one materially profitable, two public, three venture backed, four US startups, five from the last 15 years?" And if you look at the answer, the
Mm.
answer is just basically only Airbnb, which I am so glad I
Yeah.
took. I like bought shares in. But long story short, like if you look at the list of companies that have, done raised, $300 million check, hit unicorn status check,
Yeah.
found themselves on the public market check, but have actually survived the pummeling that happens when you're in public scrutiny.
Yeah.
Out of dozens and dozens of companies, the actually solid strong ones are far and few in between, which begs the question, as a country and as a community, why the fuck are we so obsessed with wanting to be worth $1 billion, when jury's really out on, does the Indian customer over and above the top 50 million households even have
Mm.
enough cash money for there to be so many companies that are worth northward of $1 billion?
Because we all want to showcase that we are building something larger than everybody else is. I feel it's a more basic human need, right? So like banana, if you've seen the movie Guru, where Abhishek Bachchan plays Dhirubhai Ambani, he's like, banana
Hmm.
है क्या दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी company. It's
Hmm.
that. It's the You want to do that, but the problem is that you get so caught into that vision that
Yeah.
sometimes you lose focus on what you're actually building, which is a business. A business needs to have focus on building, on getting profits, on building sustainable, revenue streams for the long term. Be able to build shareholder value, but also build like employees should feel happy working for the organization. Look at some of the companies that have lasted, you know decades, if not longer. They've been companies who focused on these, and they still stick around while a lot of these startups come and go. And that's only because they focus on those aspects a lot more than just like hyper growth, and let's kind of like go after the next big thing, and let's change for that. For me, it's always been that. That's the reason why this uh, most times these unicorn announcements never really excited me, because I'm
Yeah.
like, it's just going to come and go, but
What is
is
this
this a
company?
business for the future? Yeah.
Yeah. But one can argue that that may not be the incentive for a lot of founders. I think somewhere
Mm.
it almost became fashionable to project or flex that you've built this large company worth,
Yeah.
millions and millions of dollars, and you have thousands and thousands of employees. And I remember I had brought this up with Sajit, I think, in one of
Mm.
our catch ups. I'm forgetting, but one of our guests we guys had discussed it with. But
Mm.
has the Indian startup ecosystem become this like way of get rich quick? Because that really seems to be the name of the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everyone
Yeah.
talks about the cars they have, the homes that they've bought. You very rarely see conversations around really bottom up company building.
Yeah. That's so true. But as we've seen, we often said that as much as you want better sense to prevail, this is how we build businesses now. This is how we all build businesses. This is how venture capital is also pushed. But I also don't want to blame venture capital for this. I feel this is
Yeah, it's
just
not one person's
inherently,
fault. It's
yeah,
just the
it's
the
the
way the system's
ecosystem.
designed.
Yeah, and you have like an Airbnb also came out of this exact system.
Yeah,
You have
correcto.
many fabulous business that have come out of this, but again, you have to build a business because it is a good business to build, not
Hmm.
because of all the other shiny objects you see around it.
Yeah, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, but I think India needs many more $100 million businesses than it does need unicorns.
I agree.
Uh, because I think a lot of the foundational work, you know what I mean, is yet to be
Yes.
done, yet to be delivered.
Yes, Queen. Yes. Yes.
And with that,
And
is
with
our
that,
recording over?
but we
Are
have
we done?
recommendations. I'm ready with mine. Are you ready with yours?
Of course, though it's already been covered in the start of this episode. Guys, season 3 of Indian matchmaking is
Hmm.
so goddamn good. It literally delivers on the cringe value that you want to expect.
Hmm.
Indian matchmaking is that one show where you're just like expectation, reality overlap. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's never a
Yeah.
bad moment, never a dull moment. There's that, and by the way, which I'm sure you'll also agree with, but Diljit's performance at Coachella was 10 on 10. Man
So
bought
cool.
energy. Those are my two
Punjabi aage Coachella
recommendations.
hoye. But I don't know if you caught this new show called the Last Thing He Told Me on Apple TV.
No, no, not yet. Jennifer
It's
Garner,
it's it's
Reese
based
Witherspoon
off of a
production.
novel, but it's really fun. Like I just like out of curiosity started watching it. There were 3-4 episodes in. It's interesting. It's evolved. If you like one of those like, okay, what's happening here? I want to figure out what's one of those slow burn thriller genres. It's a good one to watch. But please watch the song from Yo-Yo Honey Singh and Salman Khan, which is Twinkle Twinkle, Jack and Jill, Mary Little Lamb, all together in one song. Please go watch on YouTube. That is my recommendation for this week. But other than that, we shall see you all next week. Toodles.
See you guys.
Twinkle,
Toodles.
twinkle. Da, da, da.